Welcome back to the second hour of LoveBabz, LoveTalk. I'm Babz Rawls-Ivy. I'm delighted to have Tanya Poole Hughes in the house. She is Executive Director of the Commission on Human Rights. Hello, darling. Unmute yourself.
I unmuted.
How are you?
I'm doing well. I don't know what's going on. Okay, here we go.
I feel like I have not talked to you. I mean, I think the last time I ran into you, we were at the Links Gala, and I said, it's time for you to come back on and catch up and talk. And
Absolutely.
How are you?
Doing so great. So busy, though. It's been so crazy trying to fit everything in. So many things going on personally as well as at the agency. So,
okay. Well, your assistants, and you got a bunch of them over there that were very helpful with coordinating your time this morning. Thank them very much.
Thank
Anna
you.
And Darren or Darius?
Darian. Yes,
Darian.
She's my new secretary. Yes, we have quite a few new staff at CHRO recently.
Okay.
So,
all right.
we're
So
progressing.
I know I wanted to talk about the study because I was reading a little bit about it. So I guess there's a study to see if Connecticut has been doing business fairly. Is that
correct?
How I understand this?
Well, the disparity study is a study that is needed to determine whether or not we're grounded on some of the laws that we're currently enforcing. Right now, we have a set-aside program at the state that sets aside 25% of state contracting for small businesses, and then 25% of that is set aside for minority businesses. Mm-hmm. And so what the study is going to do is determine whether or not those numbers are accurate. The study is going to collect more data and demonstrate any evidence of any kind of discrimination and disparity in access to state contracting.
So did the study happen because you were getting complaints that maybe Connecticut wasn't doing right by minority contractors, or maybe Connecticut was having a tough time with hitting what they say they were going to hit in their laws? Like, how did the study come about?
Well, that's part of it, but the study should be done every 5 years.
Oh, okay.
In Connecticut, it's been 30.
Oh.
It's been 30. So when people complain that maybe those numbers are not accurate, that's a fair complaint, right? But we also get a lot of complaints from minority contractors who are saying they are not getting access to the state contracting business. And we need to know why. Are there an available number of minority contractors in certain areas available to do those projects? And if they are, we want to make certain that they have an opportunity to do the job.
Wow. All right. So how do you start the study? Like, do you hire an independent consultant to come in and set this up? Like, how does this work at this level? You're muted.
I don't know why I'm having trouble with this technology this morning, Babz. We worked with the Department of Administrative Services to procure a national organization who is an expert in the field. We researched nationally for months, and we studied all of their bids. We developed a bid that was going to make certain that what company we procured would have the expertise as well as the experience to do the study. It's a very expensive study. It's going to cost the state about $2 million to do it. And so we wanted to make certain that it was done perfectly. And we believe we got the best company to do it. It's a company out of Atlanta. It's African American based, but that just happened to be the case because it was a blind search. We didn't know who the people were when they submitted the information. And then we got together for months, going over all of the specs, put them into a matrix, made certain everything was calculated. And so we think we got the best people for the job.
And so do you say to the Connecticut business landscape, this is what we're doing? And do they get input into this process?
Oh, you're asking all the right questions. Yes, we do say to the Connecticut landscape, this is what we're doing. We've had several public meetings where we've invited the public to come, and their meetings are held via Zoom. And we had hundreds of people to come talk about what their concerns were, what they were experiencing in the state. And then we have set up a website on our portal. It's at portal.ct.gov/disparity study. And you can go to our CHRO website to gain access to that. And you can input information. You can sign up to be interviewed. They want to speak with as many people and entities as possible. So we've reached out to the NAACP, we've reached out to minority contractors, organizations, all kinds of organizations across the state to make certain that everybody's input is included.
And so how long do you think this will take, Tanya?
It should take about 2 years from start to finish. And they started this summer. So I would say summer of 2024 should be.
Okay. All right. So whatever comes back from this study, you're going to have to implement something. So
we will.
Will you be prepared to do that? Like, depending on the nature of the information that comes back?
Yes, we are prepared to do that. The legislature granted us funds to not only conduct the study, but to hire staff to implement it. And so the study is required to examine whether or not there's significant statistical evidence of past or continuing discrimination in the awarding of contracts. It also is required to examine the number of small contractors or MBEs that are qualified or eligible for state contracts. And in order to be eligible, they have to be certified through the state. CHRO does not certify them. They would have to go through DAS for certification. But once they're certified, this study will determine whether those businesses are legitimate small businesses or legitimately owned by members of a minority. And then the study will also determine our contracting processes to determine whether or not there are any intentional or existing barriers in the process that prevent small and minority contractors from being able to bid.
So it's been 30 years since the last study has been done. And so like, so is this does this fall on your lap? Did you inherit this?
I inherited it when I came on board as executive director almost 10 years ago. The legislature had assigned the study to be conducted by another entity, but instead of doing the disparity study, what they did was a deep dive into whether or not we needed a disparity study. Our position was, we need the study, do the study. You know, what are we waiting for? We're wasting time. But we're finally here. We're ready for the study. It's on board. We've got the staff in place. We've hired additional staff to do the data entry. You know, it's going to be very voluminous, gathering data from all of the different state agencies and all of our partnering agencies as well.
So since we have not collected this kind of data in 30 years, I would imagine, Tanya, that it's not going to be flattering.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't even want to predict what it is, but it probably is not going to be flattering. There are certain ways that the state has try to encourage minority and small business participation. Our agency regularly goes through the newspaper to find out what kind of contracts are out there, because the whole process needs to be reconfigured. You know, we have to look for where the contracts are, as opposed to them automatically submitting the plans to us to make certain that they're, you know, qualified and following all of the state requirements. So there's a lot to be done, but I'm so excited about this study and what the results will determine, because all we need is for you to tell us what it is, and then we can implement it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, this is just one more thing on your plate.
Oh, yeah. Look, I don't have anything to do. I'm just wasting time every day, you know. But the study is so important, Babz, because while we have the numbers stating 25% and then 25% of that, it's not grounded in the data. And in order for it to be able to uphold any kind of constitutional challenges, we need this data. And so this will give us all of the footing we need if we are ever challenged and have to go into court. And that's the beauty of the company that we solicited. None of their disparity studies have ever been challenged. They've all been upheld. And so we have the best study underway right now.
So is the business climate excited about this study? I mean, what do you hear?
Oh, they're excited. I think the minority businesses are more excited. I think some of the majority businesses have gotten away with business as usual, you know. Not that they're intentionally trying to discriminate, but people get in the habit of giving business to people they know. And if you're not in that intimate circle, you're not going to get the bid. And we need to make it open and available to everybody in an equitable manner.
Yes, yes, yes. Oh my gosh, that is a lot. So it's underway, or you're getting underway.
Yeah, it's underway. It's underway. Somebody may be calling you soon.
You're having hearings, right? Zoom hearings.
We're having hearings. There are meetings. We're more one-on-one at this point. The hearings already took place, and so now it's the deep dive work where they're actually procuring the information and the data, requiring people to submit volumes and volumes and volumes of data, and they have all of the technology to comb through it and extrapolate all of the important information.
So what is the legislative body feeling about this study? I mean, I know that the governor, I believe, is supportive of this.
The governor is very supportive of it. It was a bipartisan effort, and they supported it financially, which is a big statement. You know, if there's no money, then there's no support. And the fact that they put some money on it, the money is in the account. It's already been issued. So put your money where your mouth is, or you ain't saying nothing, right? So.
Okay, so that's good. So you've got legislative support, you've got the mayor's support. And so now you just, you go through the paces of collecting the data, hearing from people that this impacts, and then pulling it all together and then submitting coming forward with a report of some sort.
Correct. And what we're trying to do is be as transparent as possible. I think transparency is so important in the work that we do. People need to trust that the information is valid, that it's true, and it hasn't been manipulated. And so we're open if people have any questions. Again, I want to provide that website. It is portal.ct.gov/disparity study. There's also a phone number they can call if they have questions, 860-541-3400. We have staff available to man the call, as well as to review the website and make certain that we're keeping up with any information.
Wow, that's a lot. So I want to talk about, and I'm glad that we spent a good amount of time talking about this disparity study, because that's very important.
Yes.
And that might change how business is done in Connecticut for the better.
Yes,
I'm
absolutely.
thinking so.
Yes.
But
And
tell
I'm
me,
thinking that will also be a model for other states on how to
oh,
do it right.
that's a good idea, particularly
Mhm.
states that might be resistant to. So, are you finding that Connecticut is making an effort to become a business-friendly state? Because I hear so much about Connecticut not being one of the better places to do business because there seems to be some misunderstandings in terms of regulation,
Right.
climate in terms of business climate, and what needs to happen. So, do you
Right.
think we're a
I
business
think
friendly
that's
state?
been probably the biggest motto of the Lamont administration is that he has been promoting business friendly activities, business friendly way of doing our work with the state. He's trying to, I guess, make everything more consistent and accessible
Mm-hmm.
and regulated, and but not in a overly burdensome way. And it's starting to pan out. Things are starting, as you can see, the budget was pretty sound. We've been able to hire positions that we weren't able to in the past. We've done a lot of work with our social media and diversity and inclusion and getting information out to the public about what we do, and that has also been very helpful, getting the word to businesses. We've been training businesses. Our sexual harassment training has trained millions in the state, and we just released a new domestic violence training.
Oh, so now you have to
Yes,
wade into those waters.
we're wading into those waters as well. Yes.
So tell me, because I used to do sexual harassment trainings and sexual assault trainings. Um, has anything changed in the last few years since you've been doing this work? Like, are you seeing people sort of understanding what sexual harassment is?
That's a good question, Babz. It's so interesting because every time people take our training for the first time, many of them get the answers wrong. People are much too casual, I think, in the office, and everybody has different sensitivities. And so people have to be very careful about how they conduct themselves in the office, because what you may think may be mild and innocuous, another person may be highly offended by it. And so if you keep the work focused on work, your conduct focused on work, and a little less of the playfulness. Not that you don't want congeniality in the office, you want people to be congenial and friendly, but sometimes people go just a little too far. And so I
Mm,
think our training has helped people to see where you can go over those lines.
okay.
Mhm.
I'm always struck by that too, that workspaces, I guess over the last couple of decades, have become more family-like rather than strict.
Yes.
You know what I
And,
mean?
and COVID, I think, has probably made it even worse because many people are working from home, so they aren't putting on their work garments. And usually, when you're dressed in your business attire, you conduct yourself in your business conduct, right? But when you're home in your sweats and your jeans, you get a little bit more relaxed. And I think that has played into some of the workplace conduct as well.
Wow. So tell me about the domestic violence part, and how does that play into how do you train people for that? Like what are you looking for? What should they be looking for? What should they know?
So we had new legislation this year that was released, and they can file complaints alleging domestic violence, violations of domestic violence, and they should know that it doesn't have to be just an act of physical assault. It can be mental as well as physical. It can be financial
Oh,
type of things where someone is controlling your finances and you're in a relationship with them. And so there are different levels to domestic violence, and it's on a case by case level. So I wouldn't want to put it into any box, but they should really contact our office to see exactly what their rights are and how they can go about filing a complaint with us. They can file a complaint alleging discrimination as long as the incident has occurred within 300 days. And they can come to one of our 4 offices. We have an office in Bridgeport, Waterbury, Hartford, as well as in Norwich. And if they're not able to come in person, we accommodate you. We can do appointments over the phone. We can help develop the complaint for them. So we don't want them to be, hesitant about coming to see us.
So who is this for? Is it for people who are working, or is it broader than that?
It's broader than that. This is for people who are working, but we have complaints that you can file in public accommodation and other areas. And so I think they should really contact our office and speak with an intake officer, because every case is unique.
Mm-hmm. 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 Wow. So that's another thing that you're putting on your plate, right? So you have to get your teams staffed up for and trained for, because domestic violence is for a very long time has just been relegated to being at home and spousal kinds of relationship, partnership kinds of things.
Exactly. And the training, it requires, it was passed PA 2282, and it requires, it's a new protected class of victims of domestic violence, and it requires state employees to take 1 hour of online training. And so, like you said, that's something new on our plate. The training is available on our website. The effective date was October 1st, and it must include information about what domestic violence is, what are its signs, and how it impacts the workplace, and what the legal protections there are for those affected by it. And so many people are affected by it that you would not even imagine. I'm sure you know.
I can't imagine.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I find this to be a good step in the right direction, because as I said before, these matters was never brought to this level, like never.
Because who are primarily the victims, and women aren't generally important, or have not been. But we're changing that trajectory. We're changing that.
Yes. So Tanya, tell me, are we still using language like affirmative action? Is that still part of the work that you do?
It's still part of the work that we do, and it's still important. It's still important. We have to be intentional about this. Discrimination has existed as long as people have been around, and it doesn't seem to be going away, right? And so unless we take affirmative steps to end it, that's what affirmative action is, intentional steps to end it. It's not going anywhere. And in the state, they've tried to minimize the importance of affirmative action. They've tried to get us to agree to one singular affirmative action plan for the state. We can't have that, because we have to do a deep dive into every agency to make certain that equitable opportunities are provided in every level for everyone, in terms of recruitment, in terms of hiring, in terms of opportunities for growth once you're on the job, how you're treated on the job. Affirmative action plays into all of that.
Because the new language right now is equity and inclusion. Like, everybody's hiring equity and inclusion officers and vice presidents, and everybody's doing it. And I hear less and less and less about affirmative action. So I was just wondering are we blending that? Are we melding that into one thing? Are we forgetting about affirmative action? Like,
I think we are. I think some people are relying on the equity and inclusion, and they put a period there. but it's not a period. It's a living program, right? So once you get the equity part, the inclusion is the big piece. Once you get there, it's not enough that you're there. But once you get to the table, do I have a voice? Am I being seen in the programming? I'm here on the roll, but do I have a real impact in the work that's being done at this organization? And so that's the affirmative action part.
Okay. Because I've been wondering about this since I've seen equity and inclusion pop up in so many places, and so many people are putting dedicated
Yes.
Equity and inclusion officers and vice presidents and deans and all this other kind of stuff in place, which I love, which I think is necessary, because that means you are committed to paying attention to what you are not doing or lacking in your environment.
But the commitment shows from the top, Babz. So it's not enough that they put those people in place. But if the CEO or the president isn't enforcing the affirmative steps throughout, then it's not enough to just hire that DEI officer and let them sit down. It has to be streamed throughout all of the programming.
I'm so glad you said that, because to me, that just makes sense, because it can be hand in hand instead of either or.
Exactly. No. It has to go all throughout.
So during the pandemic, Tanya, have people reported more or less goings on that they're experiencing in the workplace? The stuff that you do in your office, are people reporting trouble and problems and work problems more or less as the pandemic? Because we weren't in workspaces, so
right. But discrimination is a funny thing. It's going to show its ugly face no matter what the situation is, right?
Okay.
And so while the pandemic and COVID affected everybody, it affected the most vulnerable the most. Okay. So, who was the first one that was let go as a result of the pandemic? The most vulnerable. Who was the last one called back into the office? The most vulnerable. Who were the ones that weren't able to get the time off that they needed, or weren't able to get, sick leave? The most vulnerable. So we've seen an increase in cases. They're very nuanced cases because it's new law, new health issues. It's all kinds of things, that we've seen. And so they're cases of first impression, and we have to just see how they pan out in the court. And we've been hiring more staff as a result of it, because we need more attorneys to research this, make certain that we're ahead of the curve. We can't, people are coming to us for advice, so we have to be ready.
And so now that corporations and businesses are requiring workers to come back to work, and people are feeling some kind of way about that, I imagine, do you get prepared for those kinds of shifts in the workforce?
We do. And it's going to be interesting, because in the past, corporations have said you have to be in office in order to do the work. Well, the pandemic proved that you can
have to be
work from home, right? And so now we have to redevelop. Maybe there are other ways to encourage the people to come back to work. There still is a need for in-person, communications. There's still a large amount of population that doesn't have access to technology. And so they need in-person assistance. And those are challenges that we even are dealing with at CHRO with our staff, because we have to balance it out. We're doing so much increased outreach that we're getting more complaints, but we don't want the complainants to come to us to an empty office. Once they come, somebody has to help them, right? And so it's a balance that we have to work out.
Yes. Yeah, so you're having a real life situation, just like other businesses
Just like
and other
businesses.
entities. Yes.
Yes.
How large is your staff these days, Tanya?
We're about 85.
Whoa.
About 85. When the last time I think I met with you, we were at 67. And so
Wow.
that's a big increase for us. We do a lot of work with such a small amount of people. But
Wow.
yeah, because we cover everything, affirmative action, employment discrimination, housing discrimination. Housing is one area that we saw a lot of movement during COVID because, people were displaced. A lot of them weren't able to get the extra assistance because they were already in arrears before the assistance was developed. It was just a lot of complex issues. And then people not wanting to provide reasonable accommodations to them and delaying that. So everything
Wow.
is so layered.
Well, I know that in talking with your team that we're going to have you come on over a period of time so that we can take apart each of these things that y'all are working on
Yes.
for the benefit of the public so that they get a real sense of, okay, this is what they do, this is how they can help you, and just talk about these issues, because I think you all do an amazing job of sort of putting out there, but I don't think y'all have the time to sort of sit in all these spaces to talk about everything that you do. So you're going to come on this show, you're going to do it.
Use us, help you. That's our motto. We want to be in all the spaces. And you're right, we can't do it physically. But I have a great team. Anna is our outreach coordinator. She's bilingual, and she's really been very instrumental in helping us get into all the spaces. And thank you for accommodating us. We really appreciate that.
Oh, no, I adore you.
I adore you too.
I adore you. And I didn't see you on the vineyard this summer. So were you on the vineyard
I
this summer?
was there, but I got sick.
Oh.
Yeah, I had to quarantine the first week I was there, and so I
Oh my
laid low.
gosh.
Can you believe that?
No, I cannot. But if you got to be sick somewhere, girl.
Hey, I found a little private beach, girl. It was all good. It was all good.
Like if you got to be sick somewhere, Martha's
That's
Vineyard is
it. That's
pretty
it.
nice. So I'm not mad at you because I'll run into you on the vineyard.
Exactly. No,
And I was there
stayed
for,
out of the way.
two weeks this year. Last year I was there once for the jazz festival, and then I came back up for like straight vacation.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I did the 2 weeks, but I just laid low. Yeah.
Okay, that's a good place to do it.
That's
so.
a good place to do
Are
it.
you going back this year to Germany?
Going back this year, I'm ready, and I'm gonna stay healthy as best I can.
Listen, these are challenging times right now. COVID is still with us, and
yes,
we have to do all that we can. So, wow, it was so good to talk to you. I am glad that we are fostering this relationship with CHRO, and I look forward to you coming back on.
Thank you for having me. Always.
And Merry Christmas to you and your staff.
Yes, Merry Christmas to you as well.
Thank you. All right. All right, everybody. That's Tanya Poole Hughes, Executive Director of the Commission on Human Rights and for Connecticut. And you're gonna see more of her because we're gonna be talking about what they do over there. So thank you, Tanya.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, Nora, play us out with some Christmas music. I'm out of here. I'll be back tomorrow because tomorrow's Friday. Y'all have a good day. And be careful on nor'easter. So get to where you need to be before 5 o'clock before the weather starts to get all crazy. So y'all be safe.
You too.
Thank you, my dear. All right, Nora, thank you.